Well, good morning. Here we are at my art table again. And I had got it under my skin that I wanted to do some astrological symbols and do creatures. And Clancy the Capricorn is the first one I conquered because my sign is a Capricorn. I went through many different illustrations in my sketchbook of what I wanted to do for this little guy. And I finally narrowed it down to doing it as a sea goat. I tried it without doing a sea goat and it just didn't work the same. Until recently, I did not know that Capricorn is represented by the sea goat, a mythical creature with the body of a goat and the fish of a tail. I did know that Capricorns are skilled at navigating both the material and emotional realms, which means that we're basically badasses. So strap in, it's about to get awesome. The colors I'm going to use here are water element colors such as turquoise, blue, and I think serpentine green. I also want to believe I did German green, which has a brown tint to it, an ochre, and a very bright pink, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say is opera pink because it should be in every painting because, my God, look at it. It's just gorgeous in that corner there. So here we go, laying down our first layer of our wash to bring in the colors. I knew with this whole thing I wanted it to really stand out against the water. So there are going to be, feels like hundreds of layers to me when I look at it. The entire project took about 3 hours from beginning to end. So you won't be seeing all that because you have a life and I respect your life. So if you have any questions, just write it in the comments and I will do my best to answer because you're all watching this. It's cool. I know you're out there somewhere. But if you do have a question, just ask me. I'd love to answer it for you. So at this point, I have done so many layers on that tail to try and make each of the scales pop out. Did you see how I had to look for the word? I was like, the things on a fish. Scales. I needed them to look like they were lifting, so I'm using a brown underneath and a dark green to pop them, but it has been layer after layer, dry, and leaving gaps so that, the first wash is still there. You can still see it, which just makes everything pop, and it makes me extremely happy to see this. It's like, even like watching it now, it makes you want to go paint. Go paint. I think I'm about to start working on the face here in a second. And with the face, I know I'm using a buff titanium, which is my go-to color for faces, and then adding in pink. What's great about using the opera pink with the teal is it turns into this magnificent purple, and then you add brown to it, and it's just, oh, it's so delightful. But right now on the face, using the ochre, but the base color was the buff titanium. And then just layer. There's drying points, and then layer. You have to be patient. I walked away. In the beginning of the video, I saw sun was shining in on my table, and I can tell you for a fact that it is no longer shining on my table. But I am using the opera pink for the cheeks and a green for the hair, which is so pretty. But it's just, that's a one brush, and I'm coming back in and out, waiting for it to dry, back in. So there is a lot of pink being used in it. It's a joke among my friends about opera pink. That's why I'm always laughing about it, because it's such an obnoxious color. It's not color fast either, I'm pretty sure. Like, if it's put in the sun, it will fade. So you want to mix it with other stuff. I haven't exactly noticed that in anything I've ever painted and then put out, but most of my stuff is under protective glass, so I wouldn't be one to ask. More brown. So it's just one layer, let it dry, go back. One layer, let it dry, go back. It's just repetitive as heck, but so worth it. She's so cute. I just want to grab her cheeks and love on her. So I know I'm about to start glazing this tail by adding not texture so much, but pattern to the tail. So I went in on a dry tail and I started adding green on top of it. This is sped up 900 times faster. So you need to understand that there is a lot of space in between everything that's happening. So I've dried it all the way out and I'm doing it again. So I put down the initial pattern I wanted, which was the stripes in the tail. I'm going back with another layer or a glaze of darker color, leaving space to show the lightness where it's coming through on the tail. And I'm hitting both sides of it. With I'm suspecting a serpentine green mixed with turquoise on that one. And trying to do a wash, but I'm not letting it be even. I'm coming and feathering it out with water along the edges. And I'm 95% sure I'm going to lift at some point. But this tail, so many drying points and glazing and layering, same thing, just a different word for it, to give it that look of the stripes and the texture by going on top of the initial color. That was my first glaze. That was a clean wash. And here I come in with the brown, and I'm adding some depth and some darkness at the base. And it blends so prettily. Oh, I need to go paint. But it's significantly changed where we started with that tail and really gave it some depth to it. Like when you're looking at landscapes in front of you or coming over a hill and you're looking in the distance versus what's right in front of you, everything in front of you is green. And then everything behind it, like you're looking at the mountains, is blue. And I was going with that concept again. So it like pops out at you and then everything recedes back with the blue. And that's why I made the tail more green. That was my idea behind that. Just so you have some insight into my clearly amazing thinking. So Copic Opaque White. And this stuff is amazing. It's kind of thick in the jar. I pull it out, I put it in the cap, I mix it with water, and I work right out of the cap because it's thick and it's going to make your water into a white mess, by the way. But it is opaque, which means you can't see through it. Well, you can. You can lift it pretty quick. You can remove it pretty quick if you hate where you have it. But it's going to dry pretty solid if you don't put any water in there. And you see, I'm using it to see how it's going to work on my hand because that's what we do here. And I'm going to go in and add highlights now and pull out whites. So technically, I should have left white space behind on the paper, but I honestly didn't. I don't. I like to come back and add my whites and have more control over it. I don't like putting any kind of masking down. I've had really bad experiences with that, and I need to venture down that again. But there's nothing worse than putting masking down and then coming back later and ruining your entire painting and crying. Just like full on sobs, like dirty, dirty sobs. So I control it this way, and maybe that makes it more of a mixed media painting. I don't know, but it makes me happy, and that's all that matters. But this for me has been the best white I've used. Like, I've done all the markers, I've done the Posca pens. I don't like it. I like this. This is more controllable. I can change the opacity of it. More water. I can change how light I need it to be. I just like it. So this is how I add my highlights back in. Here we go on the eyes. With these, I was trying to do eyeshadow, and if you know anything about me, I don't have a clue how to do eyeshadow. My daughter does. She's magnificent at it, and she's very talented. So I always just try to go with making the eye look round. And, you know, this isn't like accurate in any sense of the word as a person, but I like to do on the outside of the lids darker, top of the lids lighter, and then the inside of the lids darker. So this process is me doing that over and over again. So I like to leave a space between it so it gives the illusion of there's a bump, you know, where the little eyeball be living. But I think I lift it quite a few times where I'm like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. And, you know, that's okay. That's the beauty of, I call it the 10-second marker, where you can go in and pull up everything you did because it looks like crap. But adding some darkness at the corners to give it a little more depth and bring it down so she actually looks like she has an eyeball or some kind of eyelid, I guess is the right word. Using a brown with an ochre mixed into it, and I think the middle color is green. The serpentine green really was There we go. I need to lift it because I'm scared of what I just did because I don't trust myself. That's what I sing in my head whenever I'm painting. Because the amount of time I spent working on these eyes, like, this is just a little bit sped up. This isn't a lot. This is pretty accurate. There. Going in there. I'm just afraid of it being too dark. And what's funny is that I end up putting down so much paint. If I would just give it a minute to do what it has to do, but I didn't trust it because, truthfully, I didn't trust myself. I'm pretty sure I could have had it on the first go around, but I just keep going back and tinkering with it. But that's how I do eyes. And then I'm going in one more time. Make sure they're pulled out. It's just gorgeous. She's so cute. Let's see if I'm done. You and I will both be surprised together. I'm not done. But that is the yellow I put into transition to the highlight in the middle. Let's take bets. Do you think I'm going to lift it? Oh, did I lift it? No, I didn't. Well, it looks good. I like it. Real quick, I want to talk about the importance of coming back in and redefining your lines and adding back in your pencil marks after the fact is kind of necessary to bring things to life for me, at least. And you can always go in and erase like I just did because you don't like her face and you need to fix that over and over again. But since I haven't painted over it, I was able to do that. I often forget to do this until the very end, and I technically should be doing it along the way in between layers, but I always forget. Like, I don't know what is wrong with me with that. I just always forget. So it's usually at the end that I'm doing it. Sometimes I'll come in after I do pencil lines, and I will do like one more glaze or add some more color. But this is just me just bringing back some of the lines and the shadows and bringing back those little details. So the background has to be done because after a lot of consideration, I realized that she just can't float in the air. It's just not logical. And I did put down very light lines of where I wanted things to go. Went and got like a size 14-10 brush and made a decision to just use all the colors I already had used on her tail and go to town and not overthink it. Like, just go. Because I needed to pretend it wasn't precious to me, even though clearly it is precious to me because I am a Capricorn. You know that. But I just went in. Like, I was like, screw it. We're doing this. We're going to be brave and make a wave because the only person that matters is me, and I'm the one that wants this. I'm doing a salt on top of a very wet glaze, and I'm doing a very bad thing where you're not supposed to like go in and play with the salt, but I do it anyways. Because I like the way it looks. I like to add more color around the salt as it dries. I'm using a really thick salt, and I just like the way it looks. It just gives it texture, and once it's all dry, you can flick off the salt. It doesn't actually evaporate or get rid of it, but you do have to get rid of it. Like, you can just brush it off real quick. Did bring in some new colors on that palette on the low. Those are handmade watercolors. I do not remember who they are from. I got them off Etsy. My bestie bought like a ton of them, and I had to have them too because, again, hoarder. We've talked about this. Regardless, I went in and I'm doing the same thing, trying to put darker blue in the back to bring it to the back, and then on the forward, the green, which I'm not sure if I succeeded because the most important thing here was having that separation of her tail and body from the water, which as I go, I love that I left a white line around her because it really just made it pop. But yes, a background was completely and absolutely necessary because Capricorns don't float in space. So bringing in some indigo, mixing it with some teals. I can't say the word of what that is. I think that's lapis. Yes, that's lapis. So yeah. Oh, going darker. I need to go paint. How many times have I said that? I think like 4. Doing that to make her tail pop, and look how it just changed it immediately. And luckily for me, I'm not lifting. Yay, go me. You're almost to the end of the video with our sweet Clancy, and I enjoyed sharing my process and my scatterbrainness of how I do things, and I hope you learned a lot.